Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello and welcome to the Reefer Reporters. It's October the 17th and we are live here on the Pace Radio Network's YouTube channel, Twitter, as well as our Facebook pages. Good morning, Rev Kelly. How are we today?
Good morning, Al. Happy Legalization Day.
Yes, happy Legalization Day. That's right. 4 years today.
4 years today. And I was like, what? We could do our newscast on Legalization Day? That's so amazing for us to be able to do a newscast this morning.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It just obviously wasn't anything we could set up. It just all worked out that way. But yes, we'll be talking about cannabis legalization for sure. Today we've got a couple stories right off the bat. We're going to go back in time and talk to a mayor as well. And talk about legalization and the effect that he believed it would have on his town. And, we got stories. Right. So let's call it a little bit of an extended version of the Reefer Reporter.
Well, it's worth it today.
I think so. I think so. That's right. Less people are being jailed, which is a good thing.
Right. Absolutely. And more people have access. So that's probably the best thing that we can be talking about.
And that's all important. Access.
That's right.
Access.
That's right. The most important thing.
For years.
Yeah.
So so did you want to mention anything offhand? Maybe a quick thing that comes off the top of your head over the last couple of years that because of legalization it made a difference?
You know what? I was approached by a Trent University PhD student, and I met with her last week. Her name is Sarah. If she's listening, because I told her about Pace Radio, and she's doing a dissertation on cannabis legalization and how it's affected community. So that there alone, Al, a Trent University PhD student of humanity is studying this, and it's incredible. Like, that's just one little tiny thing. There's so many people that are coming out of the woodwork that are cannabis users and cannabis patients and doing cannabis shows and having cannabis media and having cannabis lessons and becoming cannabis. It's incredible to watch what has happened. It's incredible to watch how the language has changed. People aren't necessarily saying, I need sativa anymore. I need that big high anymore. They're saying that they want to understand the terpene profiles. People are growing. It's incredible to watch how many home growers there's been, how many people that are making butter and extracts and healing themselves, mind, body, spirit with the plant. So it's been wonderful to watch.
The number of events, large events, back in the day, back in 2010 when the Treatment Self Expo came out, there wasn't any cannabis events. Well, now they're just left, right, and center. The big trade shows that allow people to come in and get information and some education from and learn more.
Brilliant.
Good to see things are advancing. But there's 100 years of stuff there that has to be erased, and it doesn't happen all the time.
No way. And like you said, less people are being arrested for the plant or being consequenced for using or having the plant. So that's also really nice to say.
Yeah. All righty. Our first story, actually, our first couple of stories have to do with cannabis legalization today. And this first one up is from the Toronto Sun. It says facts and figures on cannabis use in Canada as legalization turns 4.
That's right. The Canadian cannabis market more than doubled in value between 2019 and 2020, going from $1.2 billion to $2.6 billion. Now that's according to Statistics Canada, and it continues to grow rapidly. That's predicting that the market will reach over $7 billion in 2026. That's just in our country alone.
That's in our country alone. That's right. Legal cannabis sales didn't supplant black market sales in Ontario until the third quarter of 2021, according to Stats Canada. Ontario alone has almost 1,500 stores as of May this year. Retail sales almost doubled in Ontario between 2019 and 2021, aligning with the lifting of the cap on the number of stores.
Incredible numbers. Toronto leads the country in sales by city, doing $54.1 million in business in July 2022. That's up 5% over June.
Yep. The Canadian Cannabis Survey of 2021 by Statistics Canada said that 29% of the males said that they used cannabis in the prior 12 months, which is down from 31% from the previous year. And it had females at 22% from 23% from the 2021 survey.
Down a little bit, eh? And its usage has dropped with teens, nearly 20% between 2020 and 2021. That's a very interesting stat as well.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That would have been one I would have liked to know a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
The proportion of cannabis sales made in the OCS stores or online grew from 19% in the fourth quarter in 2019 to 54% by the third quarter of 2021, which was 28% more than the second quarter totals.
Wow. Now, the average price for cannabis was $11.78 per gram in January 2019. Remember that? Not long after legalization. But it dropped to $7.50 per gram, the average in 2021. It's a November 20. I'm looking for recent data, but there's none here.
Yeah, I don't know of any. Yeah.
I don't have it.
The vape cartridges, their price fell 41% from $32 to $19 a year later.
They were crazy. The report found that 34% of consumers in Canada said price was their top consideration when buying cannabis. I agree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Prices for recreational medical cannabis have dropped by 8.3% and 10% respectively over the past year, and by roughly 25% in both categories since the end of 2018.
Wow. Okay, so dried cannabis sales represent 58% of the total sales across Canada for December 2021. Edibles were next at 24%. Edibles have gone up a little bit. I thought they were a lower percentage than that. So that's kind of neat to hear that they're picking on. Not in Quebec. At the Quebec, they're having dried vegetables out.
Yeah. They got some dried vegetables going on over there. Obviously, for people who like health food.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I know, I love that.
and those who maybe don't like eating figs,
Right.
won't.
Right. If you don't want to eat the figs, that's okay. You can bake your own brownies.
Right.
Right. So
Okay, now here's another article on cannabis legalization. This one comes to us from The Conversation, and its headline says, "After 4 years of legal cannabis, provinces should review their policies."
Yeah, I like this commentary. October 17 marks the 4th anniversary of Canada's recreational cannabis legalization. When the Cannabis Act was passed in 2018, Canada became the second country in the world to legalize the sale, possession, and non-medical use of cannabis by adults.
Yes. Now, 4 years on, the federal government is reviewing the law to see if it's meeting Canadians' needs. Maurice Rosenberg, the former Deputy Minister of Justice, will chair an expert panel for that purpose.
So cool. Similarly, the Ontario Cannabis Store recently announced a holistic review of its pricing. Other provincial and territorial governments should follow these examples and likewise start looking for improvements in their cannabis rules.
Yeah, during Canada's first month with legal recreational cannabis, there were only 100 stores.
Yeah.
And sales were just $42 million, but the industry grew quickly, and Canada now has more than 3,300 licensed stores, and legal cannabis products are more accessible than ever.
I love those numbers. Legal products also became competitive with illegal ones thanks to the dry cannabis prices dropping 25% since 2018. In some provinces, they now start at $3.57 a gram, including taxes. Improved cannabis product quality has also made those products be more competitive with the illegal ones.
Yeah. Consequently, I'll get that word out. Monthly recreational sales hit $395 million in July. That's just over half the size of Canada's beer sales.
There's more beer being sold still? So what they're saying?
Still more beer being sold, but we're catching up.
Come on, you guys. Switch. However, not all is well within the industry. Producers' profits have suffered due to overproduction. Meanwhile, stores in some places like Toronto and Manitoba face too many competitors.
And after having little information about the health impacts of cannabis for years, evidence is starting to emerge. Oh, really? A recent study found an increase in cannabis hospitalization among young children. All the more reason to review the rules. Well, that's evidence that kids are getting to it, but I was looking at it as a health impact on us. Yeah,
certainly, absolutely. Now, the federal government's review only covers things within its jurisdiction, like producers, products, and pardons. Since the provinces regulate retailing and consumption, it's crucial that they review their rules too. It absolutely is.
Yep. Aside from health-related issues, the province should revisit their cannabis rules on taxation, big time. Ontario's cannabis excise taxes during 21-22 totaled $215 million, twice that of the year before. Profits at the OCS wholesaler likewise doubled to $148 million. They estimate that Ontario also collected about $121 million in sales tax, putting its combined cannabis cash haul at around $520 million.
Wow, you guys.
Holy smokes. That's how tax money is collected.
That's right. And, we talk about this all the time in the States. Some of that tax money goes to slush funds to help racially appropriated areas that have been affected by cannabis prohibition. But we don't have
a lot of tax money. Profits, and that's a lot of profit and tax money. $520 million.
Can you imagine if they even took 10% of that and gave it to these communities here in Canada?
Yeah, exactly. There's $52 million that they could distribute amongst communities here in Ontario that could benefit from it, as far as helping the people who suffer.
The people that can't pay for their pardons. I mean, you can get pardoned now.
Yeah, why not use some of that maybe to, I guess that should be a federal thing, but I know in the beginning I wanted part of the taxes that the federal government collected on cannabis to be used in order to help offset the cost of cannabis medicine for patients.
Yeah, veterans. They had 10 grams, now they're down to 3. Come on, do better. Use some of that $520 million. What are you doing with it? Taken from the plant. This means the provincial government received about 30 cents out of every dollar its residents spent on legal recreational cannabis last year. The OCS spent another 6 cents on operating expenses.
By comparison, figures that the federal government collected a relatively modest 8 cents in taxes. That left about 20 cents for the retailers and 36 cents for producers. Those businesses spent some of that on government licenses, property taxes, and income taxes. Wow, you had all that in there too, eh?
Yeah. Okay, so consider Alberta, which often brags about charging no sales tax, but rarely mentions its extra 16.8% cannabis excise tax. That surcharge likely contributed about $74 million of the $164 million that Alberta collected in cannabis taxes last year. What? That's a lot for that little province.
Sure is. Governments clearly needed revenue for some place. I guess they did. But is it appropriate to extract so much from consumers in a way that ignores the industry's low profitability, they wonder?
Nice. Provinces also should review their cannabis agencies' operations, including whether those agencies should keep their wholesale monopolies. The Ontario Cannabis Store, for example, collects wholesale markups of about 31%, even on sales it doesn't touch. When producers sell directly in stores, when just 10% would cover its operating costs.
Yeah, Farmgate people. Those Farmgate operators have to pay that, and they're not even, it probably doesn't even leave the business, and they still have to pay that.
It's terrible.
And as monopolies, the agencies become bottlenecks if they fail. When computer troubles in Ontario and a strike in British Columbia temporarily stopped shipments from cannabis agencies last year, retailers lost money because they ran out of products.
Yeah.
Why not let producers flow directly from the producers to retailers instead, like they do in Saskatchewan?
Yep, Saskatchewan does that. I don't know how many posts I saw from retailers I follow that said, sorry, we're out, or we're going to be back stocked up soon, terrible what happens. This is not fair to them. A
No.
second issue is whether provincial cannabis agencies have enough stores. Quebec's efficient cannabis agency, retail plus wholesale markup, was just 38%, compared to the Ontario Cannabis Store of 74%. But with fewer stores per capita than other provinces, its legal sales per capita were the lowest. That left more of the market for illegal dealers.
Lastly, provinces should consider simplifying rules to help retailers without hurting public policy. For example, Alberta recently removed requirements for stores to cover their windows. Yay. Transparent glass can make shops safer for staff inside and street friendlier for the pedestrians outside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this. Store locations are key. Didn't you read a line that said we've got almost 1,500 stores in our province?
Stores, correct.
I was shocked because I've been saying, oh, we've got 1,300. I thought we only had 1,300. I was like, what? On every corner.
Yeah, there's more.
Retail density is another key consideration. At one extreme, some Ontario neighborhoods have too many shops. This clustering occurred partly because the province stalled licensing for a year, and the government should make it easier for cannabis businesses to move to underserved areas, thereby reducing the retail hyper concentration.
Yeah. Some rural areas have too few customers to support standalone shops. Newfoundland handles that by letting general stores sell cannabis. Other provinces should consider doing the same thing.
Oh,
So that'd be like, yeah, like just like there's a alcohol store just right near Alderville.
Yep.
Before you enter into Alderville, on the right hand side, there's a
Red Barn, I think it's called.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Or there's in Orono. In Orono, right up the road, there was a Mr. Convenience, and inside there was a liquor store, an LCBO, right there, beer, alcohol, wine, whatever you wanted. Yep, that would be nice if we could have that with cannabis, wouldn't it? I like that. Listen to this one. You're going to like this one. There are some cities like Mississauga and Richmond, BC, and Marmora that have no legal stores because provincial governments let local councils opt out. Well, it was a smart political move for provinces to allow municipalities to opt out. Might have not been wise policy move.
Yeah, well, I know Marmara. It is people. It has been part of the election discussion.
Good. Good. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I received a message letting me know that.
Nice. I'm glad that you got that message out because I know it's been something you've been campaigning for.
Yeah. They say, as one of the few countries to legalize cannabis, Canada has set an example of others to follow. A growing number of places, including Thailand, Malta, South Africa, Mexico, and Germany, are working to implement nationwide legalization. Even the United States federal government recently took a tiny step towards reforming its cannabis law patchwork. And they said in the U.S., some states have passed laws, which we know about, authorizing cannabis sales.
Right. Now, these countries can learn much from Canada's 4 years of experience, but Canada's provincial and territorial governments should learn from that experience as well by reviewing their rules.
Yeah, nothing wrong with reviewing the rules. No, they got to get them set straight because obviously they're not what everybody was hoping for.
Right.
And what people wanted to see. We're hearing all the time about the edible limit. We hear about that all the time.
All the time.
And there's lots of other stuff that could be corrected. And
that window covering thing's a really big issue. That should come up right away.
So it's good to see that they are doing a review. Let's just hope that they don't do a review that reverses things.
Right.
Right.
Especially with medical. Like we don't want, that was a concern, right? That medical was going to be affected by this abuse.
Yeah, question 5.2 is a concern when it asks basically, is the program even necessary?
Whew, that just gave me shivers. Ooh.
Yeah, it's not good. I see there's an organization, MCC, Medical Cannabis Canada. They've raised the alarms about it, as well as Ted Smith from the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club.
Good.
Raising letting everybody know.
Yeah, we have to keep having that conversation. Medical cannabis is just as important as recreational cannabis or adult use cannabis.
For sure, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we talked at the beginning of the show that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the year after cannabis legalization, we had a conversation with the mayor.
Yeah.
And I don't know the mayor's name. So if you want to say what his name is or who he is, or just
Adrian
the mayor.
Foster. Adrian Foster came by. We opened Kelly's Green Lunch 3 years ago today. We just closed it in June. But when we were there, we had a green ribbon cutting. And the mayor, Clarington mayor, came by, Adrian Foster. And of course, we had Al Graham there cutting the ribbon with us and some other wonderful panelists that spoke about 1 year of canalization. Our Tracy Lamoria was there. It was a packed house when we had that grand opening. But what an honor to be able to have a mayor come and speak so passionately, openly, and favorably about cannabis.
Yes, yes. Well, hopefully everybody can hear this. I'm going to start it up here.
So, we will, in all likelihood, in a couple of years' time, have 10 licensed producers in Clarington. It is entirely possible that within 2 years, cannabis is going to be the second largest employer in Clarington.
Wow.
And, right? So, how can you not welcome the industry?
Exactly. And the jobs that are being created by the industry.
Well, it's the jobs, it's the economic development. On the medical research side, we understand that with legalization, there will be more money to do appropriate research. And frankly, I've got to wonder, if the opioid crisis would be as bad as it is, if perhaps doctors were better able. Or had at least the knowledge and the science behind them to be making better use of cannabis. And don't know, but you've got to wonder.
Exactly. Now, you've had some interest, obviously. You got some cannabis businesses here. As far as the research and development, is that coming this way as well?
So a couple of the LPs are bringing in labs. We are very interested, as opposed to simply having producers come to town. The higher end development is, of course, whether you're looking at extraction or the labs coming in and that research. So we're greedy. We want it all.
I live in a town that opted out of cannabis as far as when it comes to the
retail side.
On the retail side.
Yeah, so we didn't, at least I didn't understand the decision of municipalities, and there were a couple of reasons we could understand why they would. The limited ability that we had in citing where the retail stores were. So we were restricted that way. It did and does cause some concern. On the other hand, it seems to me a bit double-faced to me to welcome the producers in town and then say, no, we don't want your product being sold in town. And I have a question. Quite frankly, you can order it online. You could simply go to, the town next door. I'm not sure how much of a deal that is, although we do have some concern.
Whoa, right.
There you go, Kelly.
Am I muted?
Here you were, yeah. I muted you because you coughed this. I muted you, but yeah.
Yeah. So cool to have him, and that was 3 years ago. So he was speaking that openly back then, speaking about the opioid crisis and speaking about welcoming cannabis businesses to Clarington. And it's so neat to see politicians that have supported this right from the beginning.
Yeah, I was glad to have to be able to do the interview with him. I wasn't expected to do that, and that was while I was still doing radio.
Yeah.
And there was happened to be, was it Rich? I'm not sure who.
Yeah, that was videotaping at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. He happened to videotape it, so they put it together, and it worked great.
Perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. I was really happy when I first saw that the whole video, because that was all part of a 10-minute video.
Yes.
On the opening of the lounge.
Right. Yeah, so, wonderful.
Yeah. All righty.
There we go.
We'll move on to our next stories in the news. And this one touches on a tough ruling against former cannabis leaders could send message, says the experts in this article in the Globe.
Right. Industry observers say that cannabis companies' future regulatory compliance is at stake as a case against 3 former leaders of Can't Trust Holdings begins.
Charges related first laid by the Ontario Securities Commission in June of 2021, after 3 years after CanTrust was found to be growing thousands of kilograms of cannabis in unlicensed rooms.
The case, the OSC's first court proceedings involving a publicly traded cannabis company, is scheduled to begin at the Ontario Court of Justice in Toronto today. If it ends with a strong ruling in favor of the financial regulatory, many believe the case could deter other pot companies from skirting the law.
Yeah. Imagine today, cannabis legalization. They legalizes, an LP is going to court, or the people that were involved with an LP are going to court.
That's right.
When this whole CanTrust thing came out, it caused a lot of people to pause and stop cutting corners that they were cutting before, because they were concerned of what might happen, according to Matt Marr, partner at Torkin Mains LLP and a co-chair of its cannabis law group.
Wonderful. Now, if there aren't significant consequences for CanTrust's former leaders, I could see some companies saying, well, we just shuffle here and do that there, and we're so much further ahead. What's really going to happen? Just look at CanTrust.
Yeah, the CanTrust case focuses on Peter Isto, Eric Paul, and Mark Litwin, the company's former chief executive, chairman, and vice chairman, who faced charges of fraud and authorizing, permitting, or accusing in the commission of an offense.
Litwin and Paul are also charged with insider trading, and Litwin and Aceto are accused of making false prospectus and false preliminary prospectus.
Neither the OCS nor lawyers for Paul would not comment on the matter, and Litwin's lawyer, Scott Fenton, said only that his client maintains that he acted in compliance with all applicable laws and looks forward to establishing his innocence at the trial.
We're going to follow this case. Oh, I thought it was over. I thought it was over. Because it's so important to be following this. The lawyer pointed out that his client was hired because of his financial acumen and track record, and said that the company was subject to inspections and financial audits that uncovered no material issues.
Yeah. The Securities Commission and Royal Canadian Mounted Police had Litwin, Asto, and Paul did not disclose to investors that about 50% of the growing space at CanTrust's Plenum, Ontario facility was not licensed by Health Canada. They claim the men used corporate disclosures to assert that they were compliant with regulations.
They also allege that Litwin and Aceto signed off on prospectuses that used to raise money in the U.S., which stated that CanTrust was fully licensed and compliant with regulatory requirements, and that Litwin and Paul traded shares of CanTrust while in possession of material undisclosed information regarding the unlicensed grow.
Yeah, Aceto was terminated with cause by CanTrust board in July of 2019. About the same time, Paul was ordered to step down. Litwin resigned in March of 2021. And though the men moved on to other jobs, Mara feels there's still pressure on the OCS to reveal in the case, because it would send a strong message to the industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it really does. And you know what? I don't think anybody will ever do what they did again. I think that we learned our lesson. The LPs learned their lesson. You can't cut the corners. And I think that for whatever reason, they named their company CanTrust. It's like the makings of a movie. This is, how could this really happen in real life? And it did. So yeah, we did learn from it.
Yeah. And for years, patients were being charged and convicted of growing above their numbers, or growing above the numbers just slightly. Yeah, there's some that just blow it all to hell, but some were just slightly over, maybe because of some small plants to make sure something was covered in case of a death, or they were charged because their license expired and it was into Health Canada, and they got charged for it. And the court said, well, your permit expired. You should have pulled down your plant, so on and so forth. So patients were penalized for growing without licenses.
Yes.
And they were saying, hey, if these guys are growing without licenses, then why are they getting away with it? And they should be charged as well.
Absolutely. It's such a good point. It's such a good point.
Yeah. I don't feel, sorry for them. And I'm sure maybe that guy who spoke up, who brought it all attention, maybe he had some friends that were charged because their license had expired.
Right.
Or the license hadn't arrived yet in the mail. You send it in, you start your plants knowing that, in a few weeks it's going to show up. Cops aren't going to show up at my door, and sure as shit they do.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And you get busted for it because you didn't wait until your license got in.
Oh,
these guys, same thing.
Terrible. Draconian. Terrible. So the big guys can't get away with it either. I hope something happens. I hope they're consequenced and penalized.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you broke the laws.
Broke the laws.
Patients suffered.
That's right. You're going to lose your Lamborghini now, rich man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On to the next story. Cannabis deliveries through Uber Eats are coming to Toronto.
The future is here. Toronto cannabis shoppers will be able to request cannabis deliveries through Uber Eats starting today. If I was in Toronto, I would do it just to try it. It's so cool.
The food delivery platform, owned by a U.S. tech giant, Uber Technologies, announced a partnership with online cannabis marketplace Leafly on Sunday that will see it process cannabis orders for retailers Hidden Leaf Cannabis, Minerva Cannabis, and Shiva's Rose.
Wow. It's the partnership will mark the first time Uber has facilitated the delivery of cannabis anywhere in the world. Al, if you remember, we were talking about the metaverse a few months ago, how you could go in, you put your Oculus, and then you could just have it delivered to your house. That's the next step in this for sure.
Looks like it.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, consumers who must be 19 years of age or older will place orders on the Uber Eats app, which stores can receive and respond to through Leafly software. The retailers then send staff certified under Canada's or Ontario's Cannabis Retail Education Program, CanSell, to drop off purchases to shoppers whose age and sobriety are checked on delivery.
Wow. So these Uber drivers are now being trained. They have to have their CanSell and they're being trained on checking for sobriety.
Yeah, well,
brilliant.
That's supposed to be like the employees at the liquor store, beer store, cannabis store. They're all supposed to be checking for sobriety.
I see sometimes when I'm in a restaurant, I see people coming for Uber Eats with I've never even been in an Uber, but they come with these backpacks and sometimes they ride their bikes or they come with their little bags and they take them out. So are they saying now that all of those Uber drivers will now be CanSell certified? I guess if you choose to be a cannabis delivery driver as well, you must meet those requirements.
That would be probably up to the driver, and then the drivers who have that certification would be the only ones that would be getting the calls for those deliveries.
Yeah. And can you imagine being the delivery driver delivering to everybody that's so happy? You get the biggest tips. You brought me my weed. Here's my, you know what I mean? Uber drivers are going to get rich now.
Are they only restricted to edibles?
I don't know. We'll read it.
All right, read on.
They position the partnership as a way to tackle the illicit cannabis market, which licensed cannabis producers have long blamed for curbing sales.
Yeah, it says that we are partnering with industry leaders like Leafly to help retailers offer safe, convenient options for people in Toronto to purchase legal cannabis for delivery to their homes, which will help combat the illegal market, they say, and help reduce impaired driving. I didn't know that the impaired driving was a problem, though.
No, I've never heard that. And I'm a little bit confused about how it works. So it says it was coming from Minerva Cannabis, Shiva Cannabis, and Hidden Leaf Cannabis.
3 stores.
3 retailers. So it's coming from 3 retailers. I guess that's a way to, when you have an oversaturated market, this is going to be another way. Sign up for this, and that's going to help you with your sales, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. About 57% of cannabis purchased in Ontario between the start of January and the end of March was bought through legal channels, the OCS revealed last week. The finding is based on data reported by consumers to Statistics Canada, leading many to caution much numbers could be skewed because shoppers are less likely to admit illicit cannabis purchases to government bodies. Of course.
Of course. And they would say that even while cannabis was illegal, they were saying that even with that same idea of the stat. So
yes.
Uber isn't completely new to the cannabis business. Uber Eats users have been able to order cannabis products for pickup from Tokyo smoke stores since November. So,
right. Deliveries were made possible when Ontario temporarily allowed cannabis stores to courier orders in COVID. That was something that was important, and it changed the policies then.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I see this is quite a long story. We
Yeah.
could be here. We could be here reading
Forever,
this until 11
but we have
o'clock.
something weird to talk about next.
Yes. Yeah, that's well according to what the headline says, it's weird. But we'll find out as we go through the story because as they say, Minnesota's weird weed experiment.
There's no legal cannabis market in the country quite like what's sprouted up in Minnesota.
And what's developed so far is a particular experiment in quasi-legalization, one that sent cities and counties scrambling to put guardrails around the fledgling industry and raise concerns about public health and safety.
So everything started July 1st, when low-potency hemp-derived edibles and beverages became legal. Although they're capped at 5 milligrams of THC, and there's no limit established at all on how much adults could stock up on. There's also no limits on a lot of other things with this.
It's only 5 milligrams. Wow. In addition, the lack of the state licensing requirements to produce or sell the newly legal goods means nearly anyone can manufacture high-inducing gummy bears to their mom's basement without getting approval from any state agency.
Right? They have effectively legalized a very different regulatory approach for hemp than we've seen in any other state. That comes from the executive director of Cannabis Regulatory Association, Jillian Schauer.
Almost anyone, from state officials to city administrators to even some state legislators, was caught off guard when the law took effect this summer. Lawmakers were trying to reel in significant public health threat, the rapid proliferation of unregulated hemp-derived intoxicating products that have spread across the country over the last 2 years, particularly in states that have legalized recreational cannabis sales.
Right. I mean, 5 milligrams doesn't sound like much to us.
Sure doesn't.
But to someone that's new to cannabis, if you take 5 milligrams of an unregulated gummy and then it doesn't kick in for an hour, so you're taking the next one and the next one because you can just buy as many as you want because they're 5 milligrams. Right? So it does make sense to look at what's going on right there. Now, Minnesota House Majority Leader Ryan Winkler said this stuff is out there. He's a Democrat that has led the charge for legalization in the state. He said in an interview, the feds aren't doing anything to regulate it, so we had to figure out how to manage it, just kind of like a wild west of THC sales. It sounds like that.
Sounds that way.
Yeah.
State agency and industry officials concede that few major problems have emerged so far since the legalization experiment began. But public health experts fear that the state's new, lightly regulated adult use market will do little to reduce the risk of dangerous products being ingested by unwitting consumers. And lawmakers are facing calls from across the ideological spectrum to create legal clarity around the cannabis program when they return to the Capitol next year.
It's been a boom, says Kelly Morditz, the chief operating officer for Indeed Brewing Company, speaking on a recent afternoon in their Minnesota Trap Room in John Prime. Perhaps they best know for the stoner anthem Illegal Smile played in the background.
Yeah.
It looks like they're really
Know
happy
the
right
song.
there.
Yep. Indeed Brewing started selling its Too Good seltzer with 2 milligrams of both CBD and THC shortly after the law took effect. Sales have been brisk enough that the brewer has plans to add gummy bears and the 5 milligram drink to its line of THC offerings in the near future.
Amazing. I think for the most part that people are trying to go by the letter of the law and trying to do the right thing, trying to be responsible. It's smart of them. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yep, the new law has presented a conundrum for the city officials, they say. Gee, wonder why. General Counsel for the League of Minnesota Cities, Patricia Beatty, which represents more than 800 municipalities, said local governments are faced with 3 main options. Write their own zoning and licensing rules for businesses selling cannabis products, enact a moratorium of up to 1 year prohibiting the businesses from operating, which we saw a lot of around here in Ontario,
Right.
or do nothing at all, which we did see some.
Right. The Golden Valley is one of the at least 7 cities and 1 county that have enacted licensing rules and states restrictions. Now, the Minneapolis suburbs approach mirrored its tobacco regulations, including a prohibition on businesses operating within 500 feet of a park or school. And so far, 2 businesses, both located in the same strip mall, have obtained licenses to sell THC-infused edibles and beverages.
Yes. They say there's been no consensus among Minnesota's local governments about the right approach, and as of September 20th, at least 30 cities and 3 counties had adopted moratoriums, according to the Public Health Law Center at Mitchell Hamline School of Law, which has been tracking the decisions. So there you go, Kelly. They have that option to opt out, and they're doing that as did people did here in Ontario.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting to see how different pockets are doing it. And over in Thailand, I think they're dealing with the same thing. They legalized CBD too fast, and they're kind of reeling back in a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. It just basically became the free for all that some people on this right here in Canada wanted to see as well. They wanted just legalize it like dirt. Yeah. All right. Well, time for us to take a break. That was a wrong first half. As we said, it was going to be an extended version today. Rev Kelly and I will be back in about 2 minutes and 11 seconds.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back and we got more cannabis stories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cannabis stories and a mushy moment to go.
Can't wait.
Ooh. All right. Well, shall we get at her?
Absolutely. Good news.
Absolutely. Well, this is more about more legalization news going on here. And that is because, according to the Gleamer in Jamaica ganja company Itopia Life expands to Canada.
Woohoo! Nice hat, Al.
Yeah,
I like your hat.
So you know, Kelly.
Yeah.
I have a little special connection to this.
Yeah.
We'll get into more of this later.
I love it. I love it.
All right.
It's Itopia Life Limited is a Jamaican ganja company, and they've expanded its international brand right here into Canada. It's becoming the first local company to tap into the multi-billion-dollar adult use market in North American country.
Yep. Through a licensing agreement, the medical cannabis company introduced its first Jamaica-inspired strain, cherry juice, to the Canadian adult use market in September. On Monday, it will launch its first premium craft cannabis product, Cherry Juice, at the Toronto Marley Natural Store.
The strain is currently available in over 100 cannabis stores across Toronto and Ontario, who plans to expand outlets to British Columbia and Newfoundland by the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. They talked about the dollar values going on there in a couple paragraphs, and they say that in May, the Cannabis Licensing Authority said it was projecting an increase in exports of cannabis for medicinal and therapeutical purposes during the current fiscal year, which is Jamaica, is what they're looking at, talking about there.
It said then that of the 156 export authorizations issued since 2018, 107 of them were granted during the last financial year.
Yeah. Itopia Life's Chief Executive Officer, Blaine Dowdle, said the company's entry in the Canadian market is inspired by two big objectives. This is a win not just for Itopian, but the entire Jamaica ganja industry. There is an industrial international market for Jamaican ganja products due to the country's strong cultural association with the plant. The launch of Itopian can be seen as the first foot through the door to step into the expansive market opportunity that Canada can provide for Jamaica ganja companies. Now, as I've been reading through, they're talking about how this company is a medicinal company.
Okay.
Down in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And Blaine,
as
I said, the hat.
Yeah.
Blaine was the founder of Medicinal, MedCan Access in Toronto, and has moved on, and he's doing it in the legal world, and still on the medicinal end.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Blaine Dowdle.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, he was past guest on the Pace Radio show too. I don't know,
That's so neat. And he says that the second major objective is to lobby the Canadian government to reverse the decision to prevent the import of commercial cannabis products. Ooh, he's working hard.
That's right. Exactly. According to Itopia, the move has disappointed many Jamaican and international cannabis companies, as Canada represented a significant market with excellent revenue potential.
Now, Dowdle said there are plans to enter the U.S. market, but a statement did not provide details on those intentions. And meanwhile, he said that the local sector has work to do.
Yeah. He says that what we need from the Jamaican authorities is to finalize an industry supportive framework around operations and value-added products, such as edibles and topicals and systems, to meet the required testing and packaging requirements.
They operate a 70-acre farm and production lab in the area of St. Anne.
Yeah, and Jamaica has distributed and export authorities to move to 10 different countries, and one of them is not Canada.
So cool.
So
cool that they're going to be worldwide like that.
So I hear about people yelling and screaming, you got to shut down compassion clubs and stuff like that. Well, here's an example of a guy who ran a compassion club for years in Toronto. I worked side by side with him for years at trade shows trying to teach people about cannabis.
Right.
And now look what he's gone and done.
Never give up.
I'm sure it was a dream for him. So
I'm sure, and I'm sure that it was hard to stick to that dream, especially.
Yeah.
Good for him for keeping it up. Look what happens when you don't give up on your dream.
Yeah. Okay. On we go to Bermuda, because the British Crown rocks Bermuda's cannabis bill, straining ties.
It was an idea to bring Bermuda's drug laws to the 21st century. The cannabis laws in Britain's oldest overseas territory harmed Black Islanders disproportionately. Attorney General Kathy Lynn Simmons said, and represented the stain of colonialism. Absolutely.
So the government in this Atlantic archipelago, of 64,000 people, let's just call it an island. 64,000 people approved legalization to liberalize the code. All that remained to intact it was the assent of the governor, the British monarch's representative in the territory, usually just a formality.
But some 3,300 miles away in Mother Britain, there was a problem. The Foreign Secretary had concluded that the bill would put Britain in violation of international drug control treaties that prohibit signatories from permitting the recreational use of cannabis.
And so, Renee Laguet, the Crown-appointed governor of Bermuda, said last month she had received an instruction issued on Her Majesty's behalf not to assent the bill as drafted. So the Queen stopped this.
Well, I can't wait for colonialism to end. The denial came despite the warnings by Bermudian Premier E. David Burt that it would destroy the territory's relationship with Britain. It has sparked worries about constitutional crisis and charges of undue interference by London in a territory where talk of independence has long ebbed and flowed.
Simmons said the decision was disappointing but not surprising given the confines of our constitutional relationship with the UK government and their archaic interpretation of the narcotics conventions. You keep going in there, Kelly. I got to go let the cat out before she rips my door down.
Peter Clegg, a professor of politics and international relations at the University of West of England, Bristol, said he couldn't remember another instance in which a territorial governor has withheld assent from a bill approved by a local government. This is awful. It's a very controversial step, he said, because it goes to the heart of the territory's autonomy and democracy. Well, and the land of it, too. I mean, I don't think Bermuda had the plant before colonialism, before the Queen came in and said no. Now, Lynn Wingfield, Secretary of Citizens Uprooting Racism in Bermuda, has a name for it. I like her. Look what she says.
I think it's a form of new colonialism, she says. There you go.
Keep you under our thumb.
Momentum to legalize cannabis is picking up speed around the world. Recreational use of cannabis with some restrictions is legal in countries such as Canada, Mexico, South America. Germany's coalition government plans to join that list.
In the U.S., of course, federal laws prohibit the possession of or use of cannabis, but more than a dozen states and have recreational cannabis legalized. And President Biden said this month, of course, he's going to pardon anyone convicted. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because we'll see when that happens, right?
See when that happens, yeah, exactly. Bermuda decriminalized the personal possession up to 7 grams of cannabis in 2017, but stopped short of legalizing it. Burt's Progressive Labor Party won re-election in a landslide in 2020 on the platform that included the pledge to legalize cannabis laws still further. Okay, Kelly, does that give us maybe an out for them? Could we suggest that, I don't want to penalize anybody, but is there any way that that they could have a law that decriminalizes cannabis and the fine is like 50 cents?
Yeah, that's what it has to be.
Decriminalize the selling or decriminalize the growing of cannabis up to whatever number of plants, and if they get caught, they get charged 25 cents. Like, and there's no criminal record. Is there some way of doing that? And that way, they just avoid the monarch altogether.
Yeah. I think that's a brilliant idea. And then the monarch will be so embarrassed by them, they'll just get rid of them, and then Bermuda will be on their own.
Yeah, because they'll
just be so embarrassed. How could Bermuda do that? I want that to happen. The best way it could happen. Let go of them.
If they haven't stopped them, or it's been 5 years since they decriminalized.
Yeah.
And they haven't done anything over that time. So obviously the decriminalization must be fine. So they allowed to set their fines, so 25 cents, but I don't know, maybe even a dime or a nickel. I don't know.
You should call them, Al. I think you should call Bermuda and give them that plan. I like that strategy. They need that plan, Al.
It might work.
It's smart. I love it.
Exactly. Because as we know, there's kids out there that could always use some cannabis when it comes to medical purposes. And this next headline explains that. Can cannabis improve Canada's palliative care or children's palliative care?
Wow.
What do you think?
Australian, I love that. Australian researchers have received over $65,000 in state funding to explore whether or not using medicinal cannabis can help reduce symptoms of young people undergoing palliative care for non-cancerous conditions.
Non-cancerous, which is nice to see that they've, didn't just focus on the cancer end of things. Murdoch's Children's Research Institute investigators say the pilot study will involve 10 participants aged 6 months to 21 years who have symptoms that are affecting their quality of life and are receiving care in the Victorian Pediatric Palliative Care Program.
Wow. It's the kind of stuff you cheer for.
Yeah.
The program at Murdoch, the largest child health research institute in Australia, treats children with non-oncological conditions such as cerebral palsy, neurodegenerative disorders, and progressive cardiac disease.
Recruitment for trial participants is expected to begin later this year. They say that some symptoms experienced by pediatric patients in palliative care include pain, irritability, gastrointestinal issues, seizures, spasticity, and dystonia, a disorder characterized by involuntary muscle contractions.
These are little ones. These are our little ones.
Yeah,
these symptoms are difficult to control with currently prescribed medications, most of which cause significant side effects. That comes from Daryl Afron, an associate professor with the Research Institute who's leading the study.
He goes on to say that medical cannabis is a new therapy with great hope, but there's little evidence from clinical trials, particularly in trials, he says.
Because they're not allowed. Right?
Good to see he's doing one.
The trial will evaluate the study design spanning recruitment strategy, medication tolerability, duration, and outcomes to determine acceptability and feasibility for participating families and our research team. Wow, data collected will then be used to design a full-scale multi-center trial. Oh my God.
Efron sees a divide between treatments that doctors and parents of ill children are willing to try. He explains, in our experience, parents are interested in obtaining medical cannabis for their children's symptoms, but physicians are reluctant to prescribe it because of the lack of quality research.
Wow. They're saying that there's a hurdle with survey results showing just 18% of respondents in Vermont felt the physician was a good source of information on cannabis. Physician isn't a good source of.
No, they're not. No,
they're not even learning about the ECS in medical.
You might as well ask them about good rims for your car.
I know, right? No, we won't know. It's a really long article, but it's a beautiful one.
Yeah. It's good to see. They say that released earlier this year, a national representative poll in the U.S. involving respondents from about 2,000 patients or parents of children aged 3 to 18 found that 73% of the respondents would entertain the possibility of their children using CBD if their medications weren't working.
Oh, how wonderful. That's such good news. How wonderful. They want to try different things. The side effects from these pills alone are zombifying, making their children even more sick. So it's so nice to see that 73% are on support.
Yes, exactly. It's good to see that there's that many people who are open to it.
Yeah. That's good news.
Yes. All right, on to our next story. Talking about doctors, according to Mugglehead magazine, it says doctors should be more open to prenatal cannabis use for morning sickness, according to a study.
I love this article. Doctors should be more open to prenatal cannabis use to treat nausea and morning sickness. That's according to researchers from the University of British Columbia, who say that the stigma may be the barrier to providing the best care.
On Thursday, the UBCO released a report on doctoral student Sarah Daniels and her recent research showing the results of a survey study published recently in the Journal of Psychoactive Drugs.
In the survey, researchers found that even though people use cannabis during pregnancy, they do not tell their doctor about it because of the stigma.
Yeah, historically, cannabis has been used during pregnancy and childbirth, orally, topically, by suppository, and by inhalation to treat nausea and vomiting, pain, sleep, and disturbances and other symptoms, says Daniels in an interview with the UBC academic news. I knew I was going to get that wrong.
Daniels and her team recruited 100 pregnant participants to fill out an online survey looking into their cannabis use. If any, found that 34% reported using cannabis during pregnancy.
Out of the people who use it to treat symptoms, 89% that they used it for nausea. 92% cannabis is effective or extremely effective in treating their symptoms. 69% those who consumed it said they used it instead of a prescribed pharmaceutical.
Yep.
Those are big numbers. 92% saying effective.
I have had so many countless, I don't even know how many calls from moms, to be moms that have babies in their bellies that have been told by their doctor, you must stop your cannabis use. And I've had them call me crying. I don't know what to do. This is my medicine. I don't want to go back to the pharmaceuticals. I don't want to go back to the pills. This doctor is telling me that I have to go off of it. I don't know what to do. And I've always said, you need to listen to your body. You know what's right. And I don't know any mommy that has had a baby that has used cannabis during it that has any issues with their children, and I'll go on record to say that for sure.
Yeah, and I recently had someone send me a link that went to an article on how acetaminophen, aspirin, leading to children's issues such as ADHD.
Right, absolutely. So what's wrong with giving them the plant then? Now, most of the participants who used cannabis, 74%, said they would not tell their doctor if it happened in other pregnancies. 62% said they would feel discomfort discussing with their physician. Yep, 100%. Yeah. Makes them cry.
The researchers said that their findings suggest that the prenatal cannabis use may reflect primary therapeutic motives of relieving symptoms of morning sickness, nausea, low appetite, pain, and substituting for other prescription medications.
So nausea and vomiting during pregnancy are common. They have negative health impacts on the mother and the fetus. However, there aren't many effective medications to deal with those symptoms, and some people rely on cannabis as a medication, but they don't tell their doctor about it.
I wouldn't doubt it. I'm sure there's many. Some pharmaceutical medications also have negative impacts on a pregnant patient's health. And when prescribing them, medical professionals weigh out the pros and cons.
Quoted as saying, stigmatization has been identified as a barrier to discussing therapeutic cannabis use between a woman and her doctor.
Yeah. Exactly. And they say here that, it's not new. According to the study, cannabis use during pregnancy is more common than people think. And it needs to be researched more. The stigma causing a lack of disclosure to medical professionals may create barriers to offering the best care possible.
I was just speaking to Stacey Boback, who she's a professional cannabis educator, but also a dental hygienist. Correct. And she speaks and teaches dental hygienists about cannabis, dentists, most people about cannabis. But it is something that when you go to your dentist and you use cannabis, you're supposed to tell them because it affects the aesthetic. Well, most people won't even tell their dentist.
I don't even know if mine's even asked me.
Right. And they should be, because it really affects that. Absolutely. It blocks receptors. You're not getting the full effect of the anesthetic when you're using cannabis and it's in your system. You have to tell them, but
now
because we're embarrassed.
I should say, they don't ask me each time I went in there, but they do ask me if there's been any change in any of my prescriptions, and I'll say no. And cannabis is listed as one of my prescriptions on at the dentist. So okay.
So maybe that's,
in a way they did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is wonderful news and certainly progress to see as well.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And she's done that report, and getting people to brings it attention and people find out about it.
Yeah.
And things expand from there as always, right? Yeah. So, all righty. This story, I haven't read it yet, but let's find out. Let's do it together. According to TMZ, Grandma frosted after eating weed-laced cupcakes, and she was rushed to hospital. So that doesn't sound good whatsoever.
I know, but I'm not going to read, I'm not going to call her what the opening line of TMZ says. She was an elderly person and she attended a wedding and she became as baked as the cupcake she ate and landed in the hospital, according to TMZ, who really isn't the best source for news, but we'll read it anyway.
It used to have a name, the marijuana zone.
Like that.
It was a show, yeah. Yeah, it went down in England. A 63-year-old grandmother. Come on, old lady, 63.
That's not old, right?
No. I'll be 63 next year almost. And another guest chowed down on some delicious treats during the reception. The granny, who wanted to remain anonymous, says the next thing she remembers, she was laying in the hospital bed 12 hours later.
Now, the cupcakes, of course, were laced with cannabis. The lady was so out of it, her very alarmed sister-in-law was seriously considering CPR. On the surface, it was alarming. Her pulse was weak, and she was a little gray.
She was really high. Grandma says no one gave her a heads up on the cupcakes were loaded. She says that if she had known, she would never have partaken. She would never have eaten it, obviously. Yeah.
No. And that's why I picked this article. I don't really like TMZ or celebrating them in any way, but let's just always remember that if you're going to have laced cupcakes at a wedding and your grandparents are going to be there, or anybody that doesn't know about cannabis, just put a little sign, that says weed infused or something.
Something like that. And yeah.
Something.
I believe it says here that as far as the party, it continued.
Yeah.
And the guests were lit. And they don't know who the guilty person is, who put them there.
Come on.
Yeah, they never found out who that was.
They're just the mysterious cupcake.
They just showed up.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh,
you would think this. Well, I'm sure maybe they asked, and the person just didn't want to say anything.
No, poor grandma.
They did sent grandma to the hospital.
Make sure your stuff is labeled, please. Please label your stuff so grandmas don't go to hospitals.
Yeah, we don't.
That could be scary. That would be scary for somebody like that,
Well,
for that young lady, for that young woman.
Well, really, like, she's not young. She's not the old lady to me.
No, according to TMZ,
that's the way the article started.
The world's leading paparazzi.
Yeah. All right. Off to. That's right. The Mushie Moment. And today, Leafly asks, are psychedelics legal in Canada? Kelly, I picked this article because of that question.
I like that.
There's so much going on now with the psychedelics and that people will have that question.
Question.
Are psychedelics legal in Canada? What isn't? And this article seemed to, from what I looked at it as, is it answered a lot of those questions.
Wonderful. In Canada, psychedelics encompass a range of restricted plants, fungi, and chemicals that are federally regulated as controlled substances by the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act. Now, under the CDSA, each psychedelic is organized into schedules based on perceived harm, on a scale of 1 to 9, with Schedule 1 being designated to be the most harmful for Canadians.
Most psychedelics are listed under Schedule 3. With the exception of ketamine and MDMA, which fall under Schedule 1. But not all plants containing psychedelics are illegal, and some Schedule 1 psychedelics are available in fancy private clinics. That's just for a handsome fee. While others in Schedule 3 should or have just opened up to qualifying patients under a physician's care.
A groundswell of Canadian psychedelic companies, bolstered over $289 million in revenue capital, is currently permitted to manufacture psilocybin, psilocin, mescaline DMT, and MDMA with a dealer's license.
Yeah, I like that in quotes, eh? Today, these companies can only sell these substances for research purposes to a small but growing number of Health Canada approved studies. So are psychedelics legal in Canada? Not really. Then again, It depends.
Love it. If you were to roam the streets of Canada in search of psychedelics, these would be your legal or decriminalized options.
Ketamine, the fast-acting anesthetic, isn't legal at a party, but ketamine has been legal to medical professionals in Canada and the U.S. for over 50 years, and there are now multiple private clinics offering ketamine-assisted therapy across Canada with registered medical practitioners.
Wow. You have to have treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, or other mental health issues, but you have to have a doctor referral to get the legal. When I was going to clubs now, we called this K. It's so surprising for me to see this ketamine as something that we're actually talking about as people using for mental health, because anybody that was on the K, we just stayed because they were just in their corner, and it's very odd.
Exactly.
It's so interesting.
Back at one time, I can remember when LSD was big and popular. You could go into a bar and grab some LSD.
Yeah,
well, I never thought way back then that people would use it medicinally.
Never.
We're going to find out. Yeah.
Never. The next is peyote.
Yes. Go ahead.
I tried to grow some once. The cactus that manufactures the psychedelic substance mescaline, and it's perfectly legal to grow, sell, and consume in Canada. You just can't isolate and extract the mescaline, which you can have it as a house plant. You just can't.
You can have it as a house plant. Yes. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Now that they say that's a loophole, and that is because of the use in ceremonies of the Native American Church, a U.S.-based organization and chapters here in Canada.
Ooh, I want to find
so
that.
It's for medicinal. It's for spiritual purposes.
Oh. Ibogaine. While possession of ibogaine is technically legal, its sale and distribution are not.
Yeah, the psychoactive compound extracted from the root bark of Tabernath iboga, a Central West African shrub, is associated with adverse and even fatal effects.
Yeah, you gotta be really careful with that stuff. Really careful.
Yeah.
But it's so helpful for trauma-based therapy, I've heard.
Well, yeah, if it can be used in a proper way, like other drugs that the doctors give you.
Yes, with practitioners helping you.
Correct.
There are
Exactly.
iboga practitioners, and if you can find them, and they're out there, medicine men.
Yes.
MDMA, well, you still can't legally buy MDMA. Starting in January of next year, personal possessions of 2.5 grams or less will be temporarily decriminalized in BC. It's part of a pilot public health program, along with a handful of other Schedule I substances.
Yes. Any psychedelic with a Section 56 exemption. If your doctor is participating in research or you volunteer yourself into a clinical trial, any psychedelic regulated by the CDSA can be approved for use with a Section 56 exemption. And I know somebody who got one for cocaine at one time.
Really?
Yep.
To be part of a study?
Part of medical benefits. Yep.
Wow, that's so interesting. I guess as long as the psychedelic is believed necessary for medical or scientific purposes or in the public interest, you can find yourself with legally obtained psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, as long as you don't mind being a research subject. Okay.
Yeah. Alternatively, you could join a church. There you go. When one Montreal-based church gained a Section 56 exemption under the public interest criteria to serve tea made of I can't get that word out. The plant that contains MDMA, many more similar churches followed suit across Canada.
All right.
There you go, guys.
There we go. We found our loophole. We're going to have ayahuasca ceremonies all the time now. That's amazing. I actually know practitioners of ayahuasca ceremonies. So it's
there you go.
It's a beautiful medicine, I've heard.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then I think the next one is any psychedelic that's been approved by the Special Access Program.
Yes. And what's that?
That's prior to, of course, January of this year. Psychedelics such as psilocybin and MDMA were not permitted through the SAP, which allows doctors to petition for drugs not available for sale. But this year, the amendment opened the SAP to include applications for psychedelic therapies. That's cool.
Good. So what is not legal in Canada? If you're still roaming the streets of Canada without a medical referral, legal exemption, church affiliation, or personal cactus collection, most psychedelics could get you in trouble with the law. The Controlled Substances Drug Act, the CDSA, prohibits the sale or possession of
every single thing we just said. Every single one we just talked about. Psilocybin, LSD, all of them. But then, of course, it gives the exceptions. DMT allowed in churches only. This is revolution I've heard today.
Yeah, exactly. Mescaline, you can have it in your cactus.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Vancouver, I see they've decriminalized up to 20 grams of psilocybin.
Right.
Within the city limits.
They're so further ahead.
Yeah.
So it's asking, why am I able to buy magic mushroom gummies? What do you mean?
Yeah, I didn't even know that they were around.
It's saying because the psychedelics are legal on a federal level, they could choose to prioritize regulation of psychedelic forefronts and online shops. They have one in Toronto right now, a mushroom shop.
And in Vancouver, out west in Vancouver.
Cafe.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. As with unregulated product that has not been undergoing checks and balances enforced by Canada, there may be consistencies in their product. Yeah. What about First Nation territories? I wondered about that as well. What's it say here?
Yes. So Indigenous communities can assert regulation of controlled substances with their own territories. While this might be true, there are currently ongoing legal disputes over the sale and distribution of legal cannabis on First Nations.
Yeah, termed a gray zone for the confusing legal status of cannabis growers and storefronts that aren't registered with the province or territory. One can speculate the regulation of psychedelics will become a similar issue of dispute between the governments and the First Nation communities.
That's right, sovereign cannabis.
Right.
They just have their own. They have their own rights and their own rules, and the Band Council governs it, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, exactly. Now this part here. Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Is there a psychedelic loophole? They say there is no such thing as the Canadian Constitution. There is no such thing as a Canadian Constitution. Instead, there is a Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Under the federal charter, is the right to vote, access to abortion, and possibly access medical psychedelics. Under Section 7, the right to life, liberty, and security of the person.
Okay, Section 7 is the reason medical cannabis was legalized in Canada back in 2001, whereby the court found a Section 56 exemption did not provide sufficient access to cannabis for a patient with epilepsy who used cannabis to control his seizures.
Terry Parker.
I knew you'd say the name. I knew you would.
This president suggested if Health Canada arbitrarily denies a Section 56 exemption request for psychedelic therapy, it could constitute a charter violation. And that's why this next paragraph comes in.
That's right. So Therapsil, a nonprofit advocacy group, has launched a lawsuit against the Government of Canada and the Minister of Health on behalf of 7 patients and 1 healthcare practitioner. Therapsil claimed that by denying patients access to psilocybin-assisted therapy, the government is violating Section 7 of the federal charter.
Yeah, and if Therapsil wins the case, not only will the plaintiffs receive psilocybin without the need for lengthy Section 56 or SAP exemptions, it would likely force the government to come up with a legal framework for psilocybin akin to the current Cannabis Act. And that's what happened in the Terry Parker case. They gave them a year in order to make cannabis a medical program for cannabis in Canada. And if they didn't, then cannabis was going to be legal. And they did not do that, Kelly.
Yep.
They didn't do it. Cannabis was actually legal for 18 months in Canada.
Wow.
And then it was illegal again.
Of course.
Yeah.
How crazy this story has been.
But of course they wouldn't promote that at the time.
No way. No way. Don't tell. So then we're looking at, what does Canada stand with psychedelics research? Of course we have that access now. Part of the holdup with Health Canada approving psychedelics for medical use is the lack of clinical trials involving psychedelic therapies.
Yeah, health officials are hesitant to risk public safety without a scientific stamp of approval through randomized, double-blind, controlled human trials. While there are a number of trials underway, they are moving very slowly.
The average drug trial can take anywhere between 5 to 10 years before it goes from preclinical trials, that's in the lab with cells, molecules, or animals, to passing a phase with phase 3 human trial. Only after phase 3 can researchers apply for a drug's approval with Health Canada. So it's going to take a little while. Oh, look at this chart you were telling me about earlier.
What effects will different doses of psilocybin have? So you got your dried mushrooms, what it is in psilocybin milligrams, and the expected effects. So there you go. You get microdosing, basically a low dose.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Medium, high. This ultra high. I actually know people that do this recreationally instead of alcohol or whatever they choose, and they say that it's the best night. I don't.
Really? Yeah.
Not me. I don't want 5 grams, but I've heard that ultra high dose can be quite eye-opening and enlightening.
Well, they say a complete disconnect from the consensus reality.
I don't think I want that. I like my feet on the ground. I've had the medium doses in between the medium and the highs, and they've helped so much with different introspect and ego death and learning and growing. But I don't think I want to go any higher than that.
Yeah, so you're in between the perceptual distortions, heavy euphoria, and ego disillusion.
Yes, absolutely.
Disillusion. Yep. Yeah. Between a medium and high dose. Yeah. I haven't done mushrooms since I was really, really young, and I didn't like mushrooms as far as eating them. So
yeah. Anyway, so maybe you won't try it.
Yeah. Further complication in psychedelic research is the question of the placebo. Most recent participants will know if they have not been given a hallucinogenic substance. This makes double-blind trial almost impossible, and follow-up approvals by Health Canada difficult to obtain. So yeah, they'd have to have a placebo that got you really high, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Or you would know that it was the wrong one.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful thing to say, to bring up. You cannot do a double-blind trial. There's no way. Not unless you make something up, but they'll have to have another way to tell. They'll have to have other things.
Well, they say here that one creative study done by researchers at McGill University gave all 3 participants psychedelic placebos. Then participants spent 4 hours in a room that had been set up to resemble a psychedelic party with paintings, colored lights, and a DJ, along with paid actors. 10 research assistants in white lab coats, psychiatrists, and security guard. 61% of the participants said they felt the effects.
Wow. I want to know what a psychedelic placebo is.
Yeah.
And I want to go to that room.
There you go.
That sounds fun. Wow, that's amazing. Here.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna. We'll. There's so much, but
there's so much there.
There's
so much there.
I love it.
And my phone rang. I think I was probably supposed to take that
long
message.
Time. You gotta let your dog and cat out.
No, not dog and cat. Looks like I just missed an important phone call, but I'll get back.
It'll come soon.
Just timing. That's all. Usually we're done by now.
That's right.
But no, that's good. There's lots of information in that article, and so there is stuff there that can be used different ways. And there's research going on, but I'm anticipating and waiting to hear what happens with that court case for Sayersville and the patients.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
So what's up this rest of this week?
Oh my goodness, I've got pop-ups happening at retailers in the coming weekends, and I've got a new show debuting on KGL TV on Wednesday morning, live Lifted Mornings. So lots of good, wonderful stuff coming for our network. Thanks for asking.
Good.
What's up with you this week?
Ask you. That was my next question. Yeah. I heard you got a new show on your network. So.
Yeah, out of Alberta. So they're going to be in Mountain Time, and I'm going to be, of course, in Eastern Time. This is the first time I've ever produced a show in a different time zone. So it's going to be so neat. And the ladies that are the hosts of it, so it's just me behind the desk. I'm not on the camera for this one. They're really, really, really wonderful cannabis advocates. So I hope you'll tune in. They're sweet. I love them.
Good. Yeah. That's right. Well, as I say, congratulations and keep the momentum going. That's well, what you got now? What, five weekly different broadcasts?
Yeah, 5 of them. Yeah. And then this one I did with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
All righty. Well, other than that, I haven't got anything to say other than to close out the show by saying it's the Reefer Report for Croptober the 17th, the day that cannabis legalized cannabis 4 years ago. And from the legacy420.com news desk. Thanks to our buds at BMA Hydroponics, Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, who had a celebration on Saturday, and they had Craig who was there. It was great. We broadcasted it, so we were there. As well as from legacy420.com. Thanks to them. And closing out, thanks for watching. Everybody that's out there. And until next week, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.